So talk to me about high heels and the impact that they have on your pelvic floor and on, and therefore on your pleasure. I've got some, strong opinions about high heels myself, but it's always interesting to hear people that really specialize in this area talk about them because I feel like it's just this incredibly um, it's just wild that it's so normalized and expected, often in a lot of cases and workplaces, for women to wear high heels, given how bad they are for us.
Yes, yes. So, from a pelvic floor perspective, I'm going to focus on the high heel purely from what it does to your skeleton. And
Mhm.
then the skeleton or your posture, your alignment essentially sets the foundation through which the muscles would contract. So, when you're in a high heel, honestly, it doesn't even matter how high, it could be even 3 inches. Not sure what that is in millimeters, but it's 3 inches. And what happens is your ankle then goes into a high heel position or plantar flex, right? And then
Mhm.
as you plantar flex to maintain your center of gravity in these high heels, your pelvis has no choice but to tilt forward. And then you get the sexy arch of your back, which comes with heels, but the anterior tilt puts the pelvis in a position that makes it very difficult to activate your pelvic floor. So that is a position of a inhibited pelvic floor. It creates
Mm.
very dominant anterior muscles or your hip flexors, which can reciprocally inhibit the glutes, which is trying to keep the pelvis stable in the other direction. So that's really where I would put the greatest effect of high heels on pelvic floor health is posturally and skeletally what happens to the body, and then you just chronically do that, and then we end up in a passive postural position that is a little bit more lordotic, which, if someone doesn't realize that or have that understanding of pelvis position to pelvic floor, then they might not realize that that's what's impacting the inhibited
Mm.
pelvic floor, or that's what's making it not be as strong or
Mm.
disconnected, and what's causing low back pain, or if it's focusing on sexual health and things like that. Pelvis position is very important to
Mm.
a healthy pelvic floor.
Yeah, totally. And if you've got weakness or tension in your pelvic floor from wearing high heels a lot and from that pelvis being in a position that it's not really designed to be in, that's going to inhibit the amount of pleasure that you can feel as well. So that's kind of where I try to, I guess, educate people like, hey, this is actually going to affect your sex life if you're wearing high heels a lot. But then there's also all of the other kind of health ramifications, like, if you sort of sidestep just focusing on the pelvic floor stuff, what are some other, I guess, drawbacks to wearing high heels regularly, like, shortening the calf muscles and things like that?
Mhm. Yeah, so if we look at the rest of the impact of high heels would be starting at the toes, you're getting the compression of the toes. You could get hammer toes and bunions. When you constrict the front of the foot, you can now get neuromas. That then goes back towards the back of the foot where you're tightening the muscles in the bottom of the foot and the plantar fascia. So there's plantar fasciitis. That goes into the calf, which could lead to calf tightness. So when you're not in the heel, you're predisposed to Achilles tendonitis or just compensation patterns from limited ankle mobility, which can then affect the knees. Then we can go further up, not necessarily to the pelvic floor, but it can lead to a lot of low back compression issues just because of how the skeleton dumps into the vertebra.
Mm.
And then that can go all the way up to the shoulders, the neck. I'm sure it
Mm.
affects headaches and things like that as well. Just it's
Mm.
putting the body in a position of tightness, you could say.
Mm, yeah, yeah. And when you're kind of looking at it from a fascial perspective, you were just describing the fascia in the foot. And if you think about cramming your feet into these really restrictive little cages, that's going to be shocking for your fascia. And the feet are kind of like ground zero. That's where everything, like that's your sort of your basis and your connection to the earth. And I just can see how easily that would travel up the body and create havoc everywhere else. So yeah, I'm very big into like barefoot shoes and walking around barefoot as much as I can. I also have like some strong kind of opinions around the way that high heels have kind of been marketed to women as this like feminist, like I like an icon of like femininity and being a boss bitch and stuff. And actually they're just basically keeping us vulnerable and helpless because you can't run in them, you're in pain. It's very much catering to the male gaze. I just hate them. I absolutely hate them. I wish they didn't exist. But, a lot of people love their heels, and shoes is, such a big thing for some people. But I'm just, yeah, I'm such a tomboy anyway that you would never catch me dead in heels. And when I have tried to put them on just to feel what they feel like to walk in, I am mortified. I cannot fathom why people do that to themselves.
A lot of stress on the body, a lot of stress.